Okay. Is the screen visible? All good?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So I am taking this up now because it's a part of the module for this one, the quiz 2, as well as it's also, it's not in the dark mode. Is it like that for others?
What, ma'am?
Do you see the screen in the dark mode or is it the normal one?
It's normal mode, ma'am.
Normal.
Normal only. Okay. All right. Right. All right. So we're going to take this up. Okay, it's still happening. Okay. Please don't mind this occasional blackouts. This has been happening today for some odd reason. The connections could be a little off. Probably that's the reason. But as long as you can hear me clearly, I think it shouldn't be a problem, right? Okay, so we'll discuss on these questions or these particular examples that we have here. I have taken it up because I think about a week or two ago, we discussed about clauses and clause structures and different kinds of clauses. So it's still a bit fresh to you. Hence, it would be nice that we take this up this time, right? I know that there are the ones on question tags and model verbs, etc. But those are lighter topics when compared to this one. So we'll first deal with this. These are particularly important to you because they tell you about how do you actually construct a sentence, or rather what is considered a correct sentence in English as opposed to what's a wrong sentence in English, right? So clausal structure and knowledge of the clauses are very, very important from that perspective, especially in advanced writing in English, right? We'll take this up. We'll work on some of these questions. I hope you have a clear understanding of what clauses are and how they work. We are going to look at some special kind of clauses. We already looked at a few of them, right? Like the main one that we looked at were the adjectival clauses, the adverbial clauses, and the noun clauses, right? This classification of the clauses were basically on the basis of the functions that they perform in the sentence, right? Based on what do they modify, what information do they provide you about the rest of the sentence, right? It was based on that. Now, these clauses that we are going to discuss today, they are more than functional. They have the functions, but they are more structural than functional, right? So that clauses, the moment you use things like this, it means that you're going to introduce something on the structural aspect of the sentence rather than its function, right? So question clauses, if and whether clauses, that clauses, right? They all are very, very important. They all have their own functions to do. But more than that, they are all the clauses that give you structural changes in the sentences. It helps you write different kinds of sentences, right? So that's more important here, right? Let's look at some of them and the grammaticality, what makes them grammatical, what kind of use or what kind of structures would make them ungrammatical. That's what we're going to do today, right? So look at the first question that you have here, identify the complex sentences. Right, complex sentences, because the moment we are going to discuss subordinate clause, the question of complex sentence will come into being, because complex sentences, all of them, all the complex sentences will definitely have at least one subordinate clause, right? Definitely one subordinate clause would be present in all the complex sentences. So when you're revising on clause or when you're looking at new kinds of clauses, it is important that you understand what is a complex sentence and what is not a complex sentence. So this exercise is meant for that kind of warm up, right? We'll just revise on what a complex sentence is, if you're able to identify whether a given sentence is complex or not. Okay. The first question there, I know what she wants. Is this a complex sentence? Pay attention to
No,
that
ma'am.
sentence. It's not a complex sentence. Okay. Why is it not a complex sentence?
Because it doesn't contain a subordinate clause, means independent clause.
There's no independent clause.
So
Huh?
yeah,
Subordinate
so
clause.
C1 is a dependent clause, and I know it's also
Subordinate clause
I know
is
it's
not an
all
independent clause. Subordinate is a dependent clause. Okay, not an independent.
yeah. So sorry, ma'am. I
Yeah,
got
yeah, no
confused.
problem. But look at it closer. I know what she wants. When we were solving the questions on clauses, no, remember we spoke about you know,
I think, ma'am,
replacement.
she wants doesn't provide
Uh,
a complete meaning.
yeah, she wants doesn't
We,
provide a complete meaning. That is one part. But if you look at the structure of the sentence itself, how does it look like? I know what she wants. Remember the synthesis part when we were discussing. So, what is the subject of the sentence?
I
I. What's the
I, ma'am.
verb of the sentence?
no,
No, right? Does this verb no have an object? Is it a transitive or an
no,
intransitive verb? I know. Can I ask, I know what?
No, ma'am.
You can ask, I know what? So can I say, um, I know English. I know mathematics. Can I ask, I know
yeah,
what? Right. So no is a transitive verb. That is, it can be used as a, I know what you mean by telling me that no, it doesn't need an object. So when I'm responding to something that you're asking me, do you know that? Then I can say, yeah, I know. Right. So in that sense, yes. So it can have both intransitive and transitive uses, but no is a transitive verb. In this sentence, at least it's transitive. Why? Because it has an object. It has a complement there. Look at that. I know what she wants. I know what she wants. Right? Look at
Yes.
this. So you have the subject, you have the verb, and you have the object of that verb, no, that is what she wants. And now look at the object. Okay, I'm not saying I know English or I know something, right? It says what she wants. What is the nature of this clause? This is not an independent clause. What is this?
Nominal clause.
This is a nominal clause, correct? This is a noun clause. But more than that, this is a subordinate clause. So if there's a
Yes.
subordinate clause in the
It's a
sentence, then
complex.
what is the sentence? Yeah, it is a complex sentence, right? So look for this part. Whenever you're having a sentence to analyze, look at your subject and your, particularly your subject and your object part. Look at the verb first, see if the verb is a kind of verb which can have an object or a complement. Then look at the complement and see if it is just one word or if it is a clause, right? Similarly, look at your subject and see if it is a one word or if there's a clause there, right? So in this case, this is a subordinate clause, what she wants. And like you very correctly mentioned, it's a nominal clause, right? It functions as a noun clause and it's a subordinate clause. Hence, the sentence is a complex sentence. Okay. All right. Now,
yeah,
she
got it.
goes to the market. She goes to the market.
It's not complex.
It's not complex. It's a simple sentence, right? She goes to the market is a simple sentence, right? No clause present here. And again, for this, again, you should know what a clause is. A clause should have a verb of its own, right? Unless you have a verb in a complex, you cannot call it a clause. Here you have to the market, which is also a complement to the verb go, but this is definitely not a clause. This is a simple sentence. Now, the third one, the idea that we should register for the conference is good. The idea that we should register for the conference is good.
It's complex.
This is a complex sentence. And what is your subordinate clause here?
From that to
Correct. That we should register for the conference, right? The independent clause here is the idea is good, right?
Yes.
To which you have added an additional dependent clause, which is that we should register for the conference.
So it's
Right.
adjectival, ma'am?
Yes, this is what we call as an adjectival or more precisely a relative clause. Okay.
Relative.
So that a relative clause and adjectival clause are same in function. You sometimes call the adjectival clause as relative clause because of the presence of relative pronouns. Okay. Like who, that, which, where, when, like that. So yes, both. This is adjectival or relative, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Fourth one. Rakesh and Deepa would visit their friend in the evening.
Not complex, ma'am.
Not complex. So what kind of sentence is this?
It's simple. Yeah, it's
Simple.
simple.
Yes. Simple. Rakesh and Deepa would visit their friend in the evening is a simple sentence. Only one verb present, right? Visit. So this is a simple sentence. Rakesh and Deepa are what you call as compound subjects, right? There are two subjects, but there's only one clause here. Okay. Fifth
Okay.
one. I wish that they could come and stay with us, or I wish they could come and stay with us. So that is optional in this case, right? But with or without that, will this sentence be a complex sentence or will it be a simple sentence? I wish that they
complex.
could come and stay with us. Yeah, this is a complex sentence, right? Whether you write that there or you take off that there from the sentence is still a complex sentence because again, like you synthesize the first question, I know what she wants. In this question, again, you have I as the subject, wish is your transitive verb, and the rest of it. That they could come and stay with us, or they could come and stay with us, would be a full clause, right? So if it can be replaced with a clause, then definitely what is it? It's a complex sentence. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay, so that was just a warm up on complex sentences. You can look at the second one now. This is the main one, right? So if you looked at the title of this particular class, what does it say? Question clause, embedded sentences, question clauses, if and whether clauses, that clauses. So mostly for this class, we're going to discuss the nature of three kinds of clauses: question clauses, if and whether clauses, and that clauses, right? These are very, very commonly found in the English language, and particularly in writing, right? You see a lot of these if and whether clause, that clauses, and question clauses. So these questions that we have here, they are meant for a discussion on how these clauses work, what makes them grammatical, what can make them ungrammatical, what is its structure, how does it look like, what is its position in a sentence, and a few more things. Okay, so let's look at the first question. Now, what we are going to do in this exercise is we look at these sentences and we're going to make a judgment about its grammaticality, right? So we're going to see whether the given sentence with these clauses are grammatical or not. Okay, first question. I would like to know what he likes to study. I would like to know what he likes to study. What do we have in this sentence? Do we have a question clause, or do we have if and whether, or do we have that clause?
It's question clause,
It's a
ma'am.
question clause, right? Because it has the WH word. So WH words in English are considered as the question elements. So what, which, when. They call WH because all of them begin with the letters WH, except for one, which is how, right? But that is not found as an exception. Together, we call them the WH words or question words. Hence, since these clauses begin with those question words, we call them the question clause. Okay, what he likes to study. This is your question clause. Right now, the second question is, I would like to know what he likes to study, whether this is grammatical or not. Do you think this is grammatical or ungrammatical?
Ma'am, it's grammatical.
It's grammatical, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There is nothing in the sentence that makes it ungrammatical. So, but then can you talk a little about the structure of the sentence? This is grammatical. So can you say a little bit about how question clauses appear in the sentence?
Like how, ma'am?
I would like to know what he likes to study. So, if you are going to break down the sentence, what do you have? What's the subject of the sentence?
I.
I. The verb?
Like, I would like.
Ah,
Would is
the
a.
whole of that part, right? Would like to know. It's a verbal complex. So instead of one word of a verb, what you have here is a verb complex. So would like to know, the whole of that part is your verb for the sentence, right? And what he likes to study is your
Object.
object, right? Which is basically your question clause. So if I want to go a little further, I would say that a question clause can take up the object space of a verb, right? It can act as the object of the given verb in a sentence. We do not know whether it can act as the subject or not. We don't have an example here. We'll see later if we have one. But at least as of now, we know that question clauses can appear as the object of the verbs, right? And if that is the case, then the sentence has to be grammatical. There's nothing wrong in that kind of a construction, right? I would like to know what he likes to study. This is a question clause, and it is, in this case, found as the complement or the object of the verb, the sentence, and it's a grammatical construction. Okay. Now, there's
Okay.
another name. I don't know if you have paid attention to this. In the lecture, you might have heard the usage of a word complementizer, right? Complementizer because of this reason. What is this question clause here? It is, in other
Complement.
words, the complement of the verb. Correct, right? So, question clauses, if and whether clauses, that clauses, all of them have the ability to act as complementizers in a sentence. They can become the complements in a sentence. That's what it means. Okay? All
Okay.
right. If you have heard this thing in the lecture, by any chance, if it is mentioned in the lecture, this is what the word complementizer actually means. They're all complements. They're all capable of becoming complements in a sentence. And what are complements? Complements are the required elements in a sentence, right? As opposed to adjuncts. Adjuncts are optional. We can remove them, but not complementizers or complements. Okay?
Okay.
Right. Now, second one, the second question. I wonder where I left my jacket. Same thing,
Yes, ma'am.
right?
Same.
Yeah. So, what is your question clause here?
Where I left my jacket.
Where I left my jacket. So, this is second example of the question clause. The first one with a what and second with a where. Where I left my jacket. Okay, this is the reason they are called question clauses. Okay. Now, the synthesis, same thing, right? I is your subject, wonder is your verb, and where I left my jacket is the complement to the verb, wonder. Okay. So, this is
Yes.
again grammatical. No problem with
Ma'am,
this.
but could
Huh.
tense differ? Like the sentence is in present tense and the complement is in past tense. Can it happen?
Sentence is present and complement is past.
Yes, ma'am.
I wonder where I left my. Yes, yes. See, that clause that you use, the subordinate clause can have any tense it wants. But when it's attached to the overall sentence, the independent clause, it takes the tense of the whole, the main verb in the sentence, right? The sentence's tense comes only from the main verb. So if you ask me if the sentence is in present tense or past tense, sentences is in present tense. I wonder where I left my jacket, right? But the subordinate clause alone may be in the past. But that doesn't matter since it doesn't have its own existence, its tense doesn't count because it's anyway going to be attached to the independent clause and the tense will be, the tense of the sentence would be only considered based on the tense of the main verb of the sentence.
Okay.
Okay, so we don't discuss about the tense of the subordinate clause as much because it doesn't matter. Anyway, it is uncountable towards the tense of the sentence.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right. The third one, would you tell me if Sheetal would attend the meeting? Would you tell me if Sheetal would attend the meeting?
It's if clause.
Is this grammatical or grammatical? Yeah, this is an if clause, correct. Would you tell me if Sheetal would attend the meeting? If yes, why? If no, why?
It's looking no, because wood is
Hmm.
looking not right.
Would you tell me if Sheetal would attend the meeting? Is this not a grammatical sentence? This is, right? There's nothing ungrammatical there. So remember, in if clauses, if the condition, right, or the result, in this case, result, right, if uh, the sentence that follows or the clause that follows is complete by itself. Rather, in other words, if the complementizer if in a sentence is followed by an independent clause, then you can use if, right? So in the sentence, Sheetal would attend the meeting, right? It's an independent clause. Yes, no?
Yes.
Yeah, right. It's a complete sentence, right? It's an independent clause. Sheetal would attend the meeting, right? If this is how the construction is, then you can either use if or you can use whether also. So, would you tell me if Sheetal would attend the meeting is also grammatical? Would you tell me whether Sheetal would attend the meeting is also grammatical? Right? This is the case. You can use both if and whether complementizers. If what follows, it is a full, complete, independent clause. Right? If you have a full independent clause following the complementizer, then the complementizer could either be if or whether. Both if and whether would be correct, grammatically right.
And if it is subordinate,
If it is subordinate, no. See, the whole of that phrase, would you tell me what? Would you tell me if Sheetal would attend the meeting? If Sheetal would attend the meeting is your subordinate clause here, right? Because if is a complementizer, that is what makes that whole clause subordinate.
yes.
But we are talking about what follows the complementizer. If the thing that follows the complementizer is a sentence that can stand on its own, then you can either use if or whether.
Okay.
Okay. So in the sentence, if you are asked to pick out the dependent clause, then what's your dependent clause? If Sheetal would attend the wedding, that is your dependent clause or subordinate clause. Okay.
Yes.
This is about the use and grammaticality that in case after if you have a full sentence which can stand on its own, then you either use if or whether. Both are right. Got
Yes,
it? Huh.
got it.
So that is how you'll use if and whether. Okay, one way of using if and whether is this, right? Use either if or whether if it is followed by a full sentence, a complete sentence. Okay, fourth one. What will you wear for the evening? What will you wear for the evening?
It's ungrammatical. In place of for, it should be in.
No. There's no change of individual words in these sentences. If it is wrong, it has to do something with the clausal structure or its placement. So no problem with prepositions or anything. What will you wear for the evening? In the evening is how we use it, but the actual way of asking it is for the evening. What will you wear for the evening? So this is a grammatical sentence. Okay, no problem. Do we have a question clause here?
No, ma'am.
We don't have, right?
It's a
We do
sim-
not have embedded clause or question clause. It's a simple, straightforward interrogative sentence. What will you wear
Yes.
for the evening? And this is grammatical, right? Okay.
Oh,
Fifth one, I asked, what did you wear for the evening? I asked, what did you wear for the evening?
it's grammatical. And there is a clause in this one. Question clause.
There is a clause, but merely the presence of a clause will not make it grammatical. Is the clause structure correct? I asked, what did you wear for the evening? So yes, what did you wear for the evening is your question clause here, right?
Yes.
And is that the right construction? See, now here the problem is in the first case, what he likes to study, first question, you did not have any auxiliaries, right? You had a straightforward clause. But here you have an auxiliary. What did you wear for the evening?
Yeah. It did should not be there. What you wear.
Correct. So if you look at the structure in the first sentence, what he likes to study, do you see any does or do there?
No, ma'am.
No, right? You've used the uh, present tense directly on the verb. The verb is the one that is showing the tense. There is no what in technical terms you call it the extraction of tense, right? You extract the tense from the verb, main verb, and put it outside in the form of did or do or does, right? In question clauses, that is not allowed. So there's no extraction of tenses. Question clause to be grammatical has to look like the clause that you see in the first sentence, what he likes to study, by which I mean the tense has to be showed on the
Affirmative.
verb itself. Yeah, it has to be on the verb. It cannot be extracted out of the verb like you see in sentence number 5. You've done, what did you wear for the evening? You use did, and by using did, you have taken out the tense from the verb wear. That is not allowed in question clause, right? So how would you correct it? I asked what
You wore for the evening.
you wore for the evening, which is the next sentence, right? What I asked what
Yes.
you wore for the evening. So the sixth sentence is the right way of constructing a sentence or correcting the sentence number 5, right? I asked what you wore for the evening, not I asked what did you wear for the evening. No extraction of tense from the verb in question clause. Okay.
Okay.
Just remember, it has to look like this. The verb has to show the tense. Okay. It cannot be taken out of it.
Ma'am, we can
Right.
say that after in question clause, after WH sentence, after WH part, sentence will be affirmative.
Sentence will be affirmative.
Like in
Uh,
every tense.
No. Oh, in that sense. Yeah, I understand your question. I asked, what did you, what you wore for the evening? I asked what you, in case you're using a negation, then you will have to bring back the tense, right? But that's a different kind of construction. For the time being, just keep in mind, if you're using a negative sentence, then you'll have to bring back this did. Okay. I asked what you did not wear for the evening, not what
But
you.
still means affirmative, negative. Yeah.
No. Affirmative, negative, yes. So if the tense has to stay on the verb, then it has to be mostly an affirmative sentence. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
For negative, you will have to split it, like the one we just mentioned, no? What you did not wear for the evening. But that's only in the case of negation or negative sentences. Otherwise, normally the tense has to stay on the verb. Okay.
Okay.
I did not include it because I don't think that was discussed in the lecture, right? I don't think negative part of this was discussed. Okay. So sixth one is correct. We discussed that. Seventh one, I asked, what did you wore for the evening? By this time, you should know if this is grammatical or not.
It's not.
I asked, what did you? It is not, right? It is straight away not grammatical because you use double past tense. You have did and
Yes.
you also have wore, right? So that you already should know that we don't use double past tense in a sentence, whether in a question clause or whether in a normal sentence, double past tense is not allowed.
Yes.
Okay. Eighth one, what did you want? What did you want?
It's simple sentence.
Simple sentence and it's a grammatical sentence. Okay, simple and grammatical.
Grammatical.
Ninth one, I know what you wanted. I know what you wanted.
It's grammatical.
It's grammatical, right? Same thing. We did not do any extraction of tenses. It's still on the verb want, right? And it's a question clause. So grammatical. Next one, I know what did you want?
It's not grammatical.
Not grammatical. So the grammatical counterpart for this was sentence number 9, right? I know what
Yes.
you wanted. And 10th one is wrong. That's the wrong way of writing the 9th one. I know what did you want because we extracted the tense. So that was not required. 11th one. I don't know whether Rita will come. So from here onwards, you're going to discuss on the if and whether clause in more detail. The first one we already did in sentence number 3. This one is a little more on where you can use whether and where you cannot use it. Okay. I don't know whether Rita will come. 9th
It's
one.
grammatical.
It's grammatical. Why?
Because after whether, the
Huh.
sentence is independent.
Sentence is complete, right? Rita will come. That sentence is complete. So you can either use whether or you can use if also. So if I say, I don't know if Rita will come, that's also a correct sentence, right? Instead of whether. Both are correct. 12th one, I do not know if Sanju is coming. I do not know if Sanju is coming.
It is also grammatical.
Yeah, this is also grammatical because Sanju is coming is what? It's a complete sentence, right? Come
Yes.
is an intransitive verb. It doesn't need any object to fulfill its meaning. And Sanju is coming is a complete sentence, and you can use if before it. You can use whether also before it. Both would be correct. Now, the 13th one, I cannot decide whether I should buy this phone. I cannot decide whether I should buy this phone.
It's also grammatical.
This is also grammatical, right? I should
Yes.
buy this phone is a full complete sentence, right? So
Yes.
whether is fine, if is also fine. I cannot decide if I should buy this phone. I cannot decide whether I should buy this phone. Same thing. The 14th one. I am not sure if to get a new car. I am not
No,
sure to
it's
get
not
a.
grammatical.
So what would you replace if with?
Replace if.
It will, yeah, you have to
Whether.
change if. You will have to
Whether.
change it to whether. Yeah, correct. Correct. Whether, right? So the grammatical way of writing that sentence would be to, I'm not sure whether to get a new car. So what's the condition? The condition is you cannot use if. If there is a to infinitive following it. So what is a to infinitive here? To get.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? So if you have an infinitive to infinitive form of a verb, then it cannot be preceded by if. It has to be whether. Right? Now, this is not confusing because except in the first case that we discussed, no, where if the sentence is complete, you can use if or whether. In most of the other cases, actually, if cannot be used. Right? In all the other cases, it's whether that is the right method to do it. And the difference between if and whether would be that whether is considered more formal than if. Okay. And in expressions where you have a to infinitive verb or a preposition, right? You usually use the complementizer whether and not if. So this is one example. I'm not sure whether to get a new car. To get is a to infinitive verb. So you'll use whether over if, right? 15th one, there are confusions about if the jury would rule in his favor. There are confusions about if the jury would rule in his favor. Now, here you have a preposition, right?
Yes, ma'am.
About, right? So if there's a preposition before the complementizer, again, the complementizer preferred is whether, right? There are confusions whether the jury, about whether the jury would rule in his favor. Now, if you look at the first, if you try to apply this rule here, no, that after if you have a full sentence, you can use either if or whether. That doesn't apply in this sentence because of the presence of preposition. If you had no preposition, you could either have used if or whether. There are confusions whether the jury would rule in his favor. There are confusions if the jury would rule in his favor. This is okay. Okay. But because of about, presence of about in the sentence, you will have to choose whether and not if. There are confusions about whether the jury would rule in his favor. Okay. Did you get the
Yes.
difference of using if and whether, right? We are using whether here because of about. Otherwise, it could have been both. Now, the problem is if or not, we can submit the proposal today.
It's ungrammatical, ma'am.
But why?
Because after this,
The problem is if or
Oh.
not, we can submit the proposal today. So if or not, this is the next kind of expression, right? If you have or not in a
It should be
sentence, right?
end. Yeah.
If it is at the end of the sentence, right, then you can use if or whether. So if the sentence was, the problem is we cannot, or sorry, we can submit the proposal today or not. If the or not is shifted towards the end of the sentence, right? I take this
Yes.
from here and I put it
Then
at the
it
end
will
of the sentence, then I could either say the problem is if we can submit the proposal today or not. Or I can also say the problem is whether we can submit the proposal today or not. But what has happened in the sentence is or not has taken a middle position in the sentence. It's not at the end of the sentence. And if this is the case, then the word that is allowed or the complementer that is allowed is whether. So if here will have to be changed to whether, because or not is following the complementizer. If it was pushed towards the end of the sentence, then you could have used either if or whether. Okay. The problem is whether or not we can submit the proposal today, but the problem is if we can submit the proposal today or not, or the problem is whether we can submit the proposal today or not, right? If or not goes towards the end, then you either use if or whether, but if it is occupying the middle position in the sentence, if it is anywhere other than the end of the sentence, then it has to be whether. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, next one, it is unclear whether the chief guest would reach on time or not. Yeah, look at the sentence. It is unclear whether the chief guest would reach on time or not. Correct? Right?
Yes.
Because or not is now where it is at the end of the sentence. So whether you say whether or you say if, both are going to be correct. Yeah. Now, next one. It is not clear if the president's cavalcade would cross the street or not. It is not clear if the president's cavalcade would cross the street or not.
It's grammatical too.
It's grammatical. So the only difference would be if I change if to whether, the sentence becomes more formal, right? Instead of if I am adding whether, then it would still be grammatical, but the change would be that it would become a little more formal than the sentence with if, right? So that's how if and whether complementizer work. Now, the last few, these are also important. This is again about the placement of adverbs in a sentence, right? What is the important aspect about placement of adverbs in sentence? Can adjectives appear anywhere in the sentence?
No, ma'am.
No, right? Usually what are the two structural possibility for adjectives? It can be either attributive
Before
or it
noun.
can be predicative, right? Before noun, that is if it is found closer to the object or the person or the place or thing that it is modifying, then we call it the attributive usage, like a good boy. So here good is what? It's an attributive use. Good boy, closer to the noun. But the boy is good. The boy is smart. Okay, for example, right? So this is what kind of use of adjective smart? Instead of saying smart boy or smart girl, I've said the boy is smart, the girl is smart, right? This is what is called as the predicative usage, right? So adjectives then have fixed positions, right? Whether in attributive or predicative usage, it has to be somewhere closer to the element that it is modifying. But that's not the case with adverb. Adverbs are what we consider as fluid, right? By fluid, we mean they can either appear in the beginning or they can appear in the middle of the sentence, or they can also appear sometimes at the end of the sentence. Although the end of the sentence usage is very rare, right? They're usually used when you want to emphasize on something, right? When you have to give an end note, emphasize. But mostly, although it can sit at the end of the sentence also, the most commonly preferred or used positions of adverbs would be in the beginning of the sentence and in the middle of the sentence, right? So in the middle of the sentence, if you're using an adverb, usually the adverbs are found right before the verbs that they are modifying, right? Yes, no? But
Yes,
in
ma'am.
cases, but in cases where you have frequency adverbs, right? For example, say look at the sentence. You can look at your chat box. I'll leave the sentence there. He is always sleeping, right? This is your first sentence. Then the cat is sleeping peacefully, right? You have two of these sentences here. Can you look at both of them and tell me something on how the adverbs are placed? What is the adverb in the first sentence? He's always sleeping?
Always, ma'am.
Always, right? And the second one, the cat is sleeping peacefully?
Peacefully.
Peacefully, right? Now, what are the positions of these adverbs?
In the first sentence, ma'am, it's between
It
before
follows
mean.
the verb, right? It follows the verb.
Yeah.
Hmm? And in the second one,
It's after.
same thing, right? So in the first case also, it follows the verb. In the second case also, it follows the verb. But
Follows.
there's a difference in the verbs that we are using in both the sentences. He is always sleeping. The cat is sleeping peacefully. Is there a difference? In both cases, we're using is sleeping only, right? I am asking you
Yes.
so that you can look at it and tell me, no, that's not the case. But then you're not saying that. Right. So in both cases, you have is sleeping. Okay.
Yeah.
He is sleeping and the cat is sleeping. In both the cases, you have just inserted adverbs. First one, always. Second one, peacefully. Look at the kind of adverb they've used. So if you're using a frequency adverb, always is an example of a frequency adverb, right? Always, never, ever, seldom, rarely, almost. These are all examples of what we call as frequency adverbs, right? They talk a little bit about the frequency of the action that has taken place. If you're using a frequency adverb, then you see that it usually appears between. He is always sleeping. You don't say he is sleeping always, or you don't say he always is sleeping. You have to say he is always sleeping, right? Whereas when you use an adverb of manner, you use it right after the whole verb complex. The cat is sleeping peacefully, not the cat is peacefully sleeping. Right? So when you're using any adverb other than the frequency adverb, it has to follow the verb. Right? You don't say the cat is peacefully sleeping. You would say the cat is sleeping peacefully. Got this point? Yes, no? Except for the frequency adverbs, everything else will have to follow the verb. Got this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Particularly the ones that show you manners, right? The adverb of manners. And even the others. The condition that it goes between the two verb complexes is only applicable to the frequency adverbs. He is always late. Okay. Or he is always sleeping. Right? He is never on time. Right? All of the frequency adverbs will take the position in between. But rest of them, usually the position is to follow the given verb. Now there's another additional condition. Right? You know of the sentences which have two objects, right? Direct and indirect object. Can you give me an example? Ditransitive verb, or in another way, two objects. Let's take the example give. I gave a book to my friend, right? Look at your chat box. I gave a book to my friend. This is what? Example of a ditransitive verb, give, right? Which has two objects, direct, indirect
Yes, ma'am.
object. What's the direct object here?
Book.
Give.
A book. A book is your direct object and friend, my friend is your indirect object. Now, in case you have verbs like this and you want to add adverbs to it, what happens? If you mention the direct object first, right? So now see, in this case, it may not be very clear. Usually this happens when you have clauses, right? So let's look for a sentence which has clauses. Or maybe we'll work on the same sentence. I gave that which was his to his friend. You look at this sentence that we have here. I gave that which was his to his friend. Do you have a direct and an indirect object here in this case?
No, ma'am.
Right?
No, ma'am.
We do, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Which?
we still have a direct and yeah, you have that which was his as your direct object, which is a clause. It's a that clause, that which was his. It's a that clause, and that is your direct object. His friend is your indirect object,
Yes, ma'am.
right?
Ma'am, here,
Yes, no.
here his to his friend denoted. What is
No, not
denoted?
to his. No, not to his friend. His friend is your indirect object,
Okay, ma'am.
right? You can change that also into a clause. It's not a problem, but I haven't used it because it will become a very complicated sentence then, right? So,
Yes, ma'am.
okay. So point here is if you have two objects, right? So usually the adverbs will precede the direct object. It's like that, that clause. If you have it as a subject or somewhere, in this case, you've used it as an object. But wherever you're using the adverb, it needs to precede the direct object, right? This is in the case where you have two objects, right? That is the condition. So in terms of using adverbs in a sentence, some of these rules are important. The first one is based on the nature of the adverb. That is, if it is a frequency adverb, then it usually goes in between the auxiliary verb and the main verb, right? If it is any other kind of adverb, then it definitely goes after your verb, right? And if you have a direct and an indirect object in the sentence, usually the adverbs will go before the direct object, right? That's what a few conditions on the use of adverbs in a sentence are. But while we talk about all of this, you should also keep in mind that adverbs in general are fluid particles. That is, you can push them based on your need towards the beginning of the sentence or towards the end of the sentence or even in the middle of the sentence. So all of these, if you want to emphasize the whole sentence, then what do? You put that particular adverb in the beginning, like you do in the case of sentence adverbs, right? Or you have something like a viewpoint adverb, right? Viewpoint adverbs, what's the placement? In the beginning of the sentence, right? So
Yes,
have a
ma'am.
wholesome understanding about the adverbs, about how they function and how they behave in a sentence structurally, right? Just have a understanding of these things and you will be okay. You'll see if you understand these things better, you can do the grammar also better. Okay. So instead of simply saying it goes in between the verb and then goes after the verb, try and understand how it functions in general. Take few examples of sentences from real life and see what it is doing, right? Okay, all right. So yeah, the summary of what I was saying is adverbs as opposed to, other modifiers like, say, adjectives, they don't have a rigid position. You can change them based on the circumstances, based on what you want to emphasize upon. Okay. Okay, now we'll look back at these questions and see if there's anything that needs to be changed here. Look at this one. Sentence number, which one is this? We finished with this one, no? We finished the 18th, right? 19th one. Look at this one.
Yes.
He sent quickly the file to the office. He sent quickly the file to the office.
It's grammatical, ma'am.
It's grammatical. It follows the verb, right? So no problem. He sent quickly to the, he sent quickly the file to the office. Okay, no issues.
Yeah.
Now, 20th one, he sent to us his CV. He sent to us his CV. We have no adverbs here, but this is
Yes.
again a case of using direct and indirect object.
Yes,
He
ma'am.
sent to us his CV. Yes, in the sense. This is grammatical, right? We don't have any particular position on. It's okay. There is nothing wrong in saying he sent to us his CV. All right. Okay. Now, second one. Sorry, not second one. 21st one. He sent
21st.
us his CV. Oh, sorry. 20th one would be. You tell me if it's grammatical or ungrammatical.
Grammatical.
Okay. But do we need it? Compare it with 21. No, he sent to us his CV. He sent us his CV. Do we have to say he
Yes,
sent
ma'am.
to us?
Both are
Yes,
comfortable.
ma'am.
Huh. He sent us his CV or he sent to us his CV?
Uh,
And the second
I
one is
feel
more.
that
he sent
he sent to us his
his
CV
CV.
is not that correct.
Yeah, you don't require that to there, right? You can simply say
Yeah.
he sent us his CV. To us is not something that we use the prepositions to and for only when the indirect object is following the direct object, right? You could have said he sent his CV to us, okay? But not he sent to us his CV. If your indirect object comes first, okay, why am I saying indirect and direct? The verb is ditransitive, send, right? You can both send and receive. The moment you do that, you have two objects, the thing that you send and the person who has received it, right? One direct and one indirect object. So if your indirect object comes first, then you don't have to use any prepositions with it. You can simply say, he sent us his CV. That's the right way of writing the sentence. But in case if it follows, right? In case if it follows, then you're going to write what? He sent his CV. Now this, here you're putting the direct object first, right? Indirect object
Then
as
two
follows.
becomes
In that case, you will have to add to, or in some cases for. I bought a book for my
for
friend.
my friend. Yes.
But if you're going to put the friend part in the as the first one, if you're going to push the indirect
I
object
bought
as the
my
first
friend
one,
a book.
correct. I bought my friend a book. You don't say I bought for my friend a book. Okay.
Okay.
Right. So as though just like the adverb, if you're changing the position of the objects also in the case you have a direct and an indirect object, the grammar changes, right? Okay. This is 12th one, right? He told us that he had same thing. I think we just added more particles to the sentence and we have expanded it. He told us that he had an urgent meeting with the client. Now here the difference is we have added a clause. Instead of just a word, we have added a clause. He told us that he had an urgent meeting with the client. Tell is again a ditransitive verb. It has two objects. Yeah, one of the object here is us and the second object is that he had an urgent meeting with the client. Which one is the direct object?
Us.
Us.
Us is the direct object? No. Us is the indirect object, right? He told what? He told that he had an urgent meeting with the client. That's the direct object. To whom?
Okay.
To us, right? So that's the indirect object. So he told us that he had an urgent meeting with the client. Is this grammatical?
Yes, ma'am. It's grammatical.
Yes, right? Because when the direct object comes first, you don't have to use a preposition, right? So he told to us, but he told us that he had an urgent meeting with the client. That is the sentence number 13. He told to us.
Direct object comes first, you are saying.
If direct object comes first, then you have to use to. If it doesn't, then no. Okay. You have that example. I think 13th and 14th gives you a clarity on that. He told
Yes.
to us that he had an urgent meeting with the client. Correct? Incorrect?
Incorrect, ma'am.
Incorrect, right? You don't say to us, you just need to say us because it has preceded the direct object. Last sentence, he told. Now, what has happened here? The direct object is coming first. He told that he had an urgent meeting to attend to us. Is this okay?
Yes, ma'am. It's okay.
Yeah, this is fine, right? Because your indirect object has followed the direct object. So in this case, you have to use a preposition. So this one is fine, right? Two ways of writing that sentence. Either you say he told us that he had an urgent meeting with the client, or he told that he had an urgent meeting to attend to us. Okay, but definitely not he told to us. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Huh. Okay, all right. Uh, if you have any questions in connection with any of these, please feel free to write or talk to us wherever you, how to use whether and if. Vishnu, did you join late to the session? Because we had discussed a little bit, not little bit actually, in detail on how to use if and whether.
Yes,
Uh,
ma'am. I
please,
joined
you did? Okay.
late.
So after this is uploaded, no, please catch up with this recorded session. And if you still have any doubts, please feel free
Ma'am,
to write to us.
this video is which website on uploaded?
This would be there. No, you check your calendar. The playlist is uploaded every time after the session's over. So you can find all
Okay,
the
okay,
recorded
okay.
sessions there. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Sure, sure. No problem. But in case you still have any doubts, please don't hesitate to write. Okay. Or talk to us for the live sessions. Third one.
I had a doubt.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so you told that for adverb of frequency, we use it
Hmm.
mostly in between auxiliary verb and main verb.
Yes.
Is it always the case or just most of the times?
Most often that is the case. Okay. So I cannot come up with an exception right now. And since I have not, no, I don't have an example prepared. I'm not going to go to the extent of saying always. But my hunch is that most often than not, that is the case, right? The
Like,
frequency adverbs come in
for
between
example,
Huh.
if I have a sentence, I'm moving to Chennai on Tuesday.
Hmm.
So in that Tuesday is adverb of frequency.
No,
We used it.
Tuesday is not adverb of frequency. How is it adverb of frequency? I moved to Chennai on Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
So how is it adverb of frequency? It's adverb of time, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and more than that, Tuesday is not an adverb. In fact, that there's no adverb there. On Tuesday would be considered an adverbial element, that's all.
No.
But it's not adverb.
Oh, thank you.
Okay,
That's
yeah, sure. Okay, identify the finite and infinite clauses. Now, finite and infinite clauses, if you remember from the discussion on clauses, I think we discussed 2 weeks ago. Finiteness in a clause comes from which element, if you remember? Which element in the clause tells you about finiteness? The verb, right? Finiteness is connected to tense. So if the verb in the sentence has tense, it's able, if it is able to tell you about the time or tense, then that particular clause is considered finite. If it cannot tell you anything about the time or the tense, then it's called infinite. Okay. So keep this in mind. Finiteness is a concept in grammar which is linked closely to verb. Okay. All right. So based on that, can we discuss these questions? I think that this boy is innocent. I think that this boy is innocent.
It's finite, ma'am.
That, okay, what is the clause here? That this boy is innocent. Now, does the verb in this clause have tense? It does,
Yes,
right? It does. So this particular clause, that this subordinate clause, that this boy is innocent is what? It is a finite subordinate clause. Okay. I want him, second one. I want him to pick up the order.
It's infinite, ma'am.
Why is it infinite? And what is the clause here? Can you tell us? Him
To pick up
to
the
pick
order.
up the order, right? Him to pick up the order. This is your subordinate clause, and the verb in this particular subordinate clause is what? To
To
pick
pick
up. To pick up. This is what? This is a to infinitive verb. So in the name itself, you have infinitive, right? To infinitive. This is a tenseless verb. It is a verb, but it's a tenseless verb as opposed to the verb is in the first sentence, right? Okay, so this is a non-finite infinitive, subordinate clause. Yeah, you can either call infinite clauses, infinitival clauses, or non-finite clauses. All are fine. Third one, I want to go to Dehradun. I want to go to Dehradun. I want to go to Dehradun.
It's also infinite.
This is also infinite, right? Why? Because you have to go as a
To
part
go.
of the subordinate syllabus. What is it? Clause, right? I want to go to Dehradun. I is your subject, want is your verb. To go to Dehradun is what comprises of the subordinate clause. And to go is a verb which is infinite.
To infinite.
So this is an infinite clause. Okay. Next is, I wonder where she lives. I wonder where she lives.
It's finite clause.
This is a finite clause. Why? Because the verb lives in the subordinate clause where she lives has a tense, right? So this is a finite clause. Could you tell me if he would be here on time? Could you tell me if he would be here on time?
It's also
So if he would be here on time, right? If he would be here on time. So this one is your if clause or the if subordinate clause, adverbial clause, and be has a tense on it. Hence, you're going to mark it off as a finite clause. Okay. Sixth one, I want her to meet with him. I want her to meet with him.
It's infinite clause.
This is infinite, right? Because what verb do you have in the subordinate clause? To meet.
To meet.
And this is an infinite verb. No tense. I would like her to see what she wrote in the exam. I would like her to see what she wrote in the exam.
There are two clauses here. One is
There are two
finite.
clauses here. Yes, correct.
One is infinite and second one is finite.
Yeah, correct. Right. So which one is the finite one?
From her to exam.
No. The finite one is what she wrote in the exam, right? That is the embedded clause within the larger clause. Her to see what she wrote in the exam. That's your first subordinate clause. And within that subordinate clause, you have what she wrote in the exam, the question clause. So the question clause is finite here. It has a tense. But her to see what she wrote in the exam, that particular clause is infinite because of the presence of to see. Okay. Right.
Okay.
Now, I believe you did not read the whole story. I believe you did not read the whole story. Simple? Finite, infinite? This is finite. Yeah, because you did not read the whole story. Right? It has a tense. It's in past tense. That particular clause has a tense. Hence, this is a finite subordinate clause. Okay. So the remaining part is on the subject and that clause that will continue in the next class along with the question tags. Okay. But the things that we discussed today, are they clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So keep practicing them. Some of them might be a little difficult to catch in the first go, especially adverbs, placements, direct object placements. Try and write, a little bit on your own and try and construct these kind of sentences so that you get in the habit of writing them grammatically. Okay. But again, if there are doubts, you know what you should do. Right? All right.
Ma'am,
If you don't have...
are we going
okay.
to discuss mood of adverbs? Like there was question.
Mood of adverbs. Yeah, I think you have something on that. No, the subjunctive, indicative, and imperative mood.
Yeah,
right?
we have not discussed it.
Okay, we have not discussed. We'll take it up in one of the class. Maybe
Yes.
next week. Question tag is a small topic. Maybe
So
along with that.
you can do it with, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. If there are no questions, we'll wind up for today. If you have any, please stay back and ask. Nothing? Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. Then see you again next week.